Welcome to Save Our Sleep. Tizzie and the Save Our Sleep team believe it's every child's right to receive comfort, a parent's right to demonstrate love, and everyone's right to a full night of sleep. This podcast is not a medical or scientific volume, but a collection of tried and tested solutions and tips based on my many years of experience with babies and young children. Its main purpose is to help parents understand and avoid sleep problems in young babies and toddlers.
We'd like to recognise the Wadawurrung people who are the traditional owners of this region, which Tizzie and myself live and are recording today's podcast on. We acknowledge and respect that they have taken care of this land and water and raised children in this nation for over an extraordinary 70,000 years. The Save Our Sleep podcast is dedicated to helping you prevent and solve sleep problems while having some fun along the way. We endeavour to discuss all things family related, starting from pre-conception all the way through to an adult child leaving home and beyond. Some topics may be triggering. If you find this is the case, please reach out to your or your child's health nurse or general practitioner.
Welcome to the Wednesday Craic, midweek Craic. Welcome to the midweek Craic. So,
Hello.
how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. So, midweek Craic today is from Gracie Laceie.
Yes.
Do you know who Gracie Laceie is?
I've seen her on the support page, but...
And Zoe named her Gracie Laceie. So Gracie Laceie gets another $20 gift voucher for her topic. Gracie Laceie has asked about A2, why we recommend A2 milk and A2 cow's milk. So milk rather than normal.
Yeah.
So let's talk about milk. Let's make midweek Craic this week all about milk.
Excellent.
So it's interesting. I breastfed Killian. Dara had no problems with milk. He was breastfed. He had milk very early on. They gave him formula when he was very first born. I think he'd low sugars. He'd no issues, no intolerances, whatever. He was easy and he pretty much had any milk, no problems. Killian, I breastfed until he was about 2. But I gave him 1 bottle a day of A2 milk. So A2 infant formula was around. No, it wasn't. It was Bellamy's. I was giving him Bellamy's formula. 1 bottle a day. Yeah. And of Bellamy's formula. And he seemed to be okay-ish with it, but he kept getting pooey nappies. But I thought they were runny pooey nappies just because it was different, you know. So he was fully breastfed with 1 bottle a day. Then I was trying to get him off the breast onto cow's milk. And every time he had a baby, this was when he was like 18 months, 2 years old. 2 years old. Every time he had a baby chino, he would have like an explosive poo. It was like so disgusting. I remember with Killian once, Cadell Evans, cyclist, was like, had to leave the restaurant because Killian stank so much. And it was really embarrassing and it was really awful. And it was because of the milk. He would have a baby chino and he would have these horrible runny poos. Yeah. And then we went to New Zealand and I had Bellamy's organic. We must have been on A2 formula by then. We must have been. Anyhow, we went to New Zealand and he was having formula and some formula. And I'd carried tins of formula. And then we tried him on the milk. We tried him on New Zealand milk and he was fine. And I was like, oh, he's fine. I gave all the formula away. And he was much older by now, so he wasn't breastfed. He was over the age of 2. And I gave all the formula away and I moved him to the cow's milk in New Zealand and he was absolutely fine. And then we came back to Australia, we had cow's milk and he was really ill. Vomiting, diarrhea, cramps, crying. And then I looked into it and I realised that the farm we'd been on in New Zealand was A2 milk. Then somebody told me to read a book called The Magic in Milk, or The Devil in Milk.
Okay.
The Devil in Milk. So I read this thing called The Devil in Milk, and it talks all about the milk proteins. And that's when I realised that you've got milk proteins. Dairy cows have got an A2 milk protein and an A1 milk protein. And I went to talk, which was sponsored by the A2 milk company. So, of course, it's going to be a bit biased. But there was this man there, and there was a man and a lady, and they were really old. They were in their 90s. And they were talking about before one of the world wars in Australia, milk was bought off the dairy farmers by the quality. So if the milk was nice and thick and rich and creamy, the farmer got more money. And then after the World War, whether it was the First or Second World War, they were paid by the amount of milk. So the more milk they gave, the more money they got. It didn't matter what the quality was. And they were saying how there was a bull, and the bull would go round and inseminate. So you'd pay for this bull, and this bull would arrive at your farm, and it would mate with all your cows, and it was one bull. And at some point they worked out that beef bulls with dairy cows created more milk. So that's when, so it's something, don't totally quote me on this, but it's something along the lines of the beef cows are A1 and the dairy cows, Jersey, Guernsey, goats as well, in the UK and so on, are A2. Goats are A2. So these cows, after the World War, they all got mixed up. And it was like the milk in Australia went from being all A1 milk, the drinking milk that people have with their food, in their milk and tea and coffee and stuff, all became all became mixed up.
Yeah.
Before the war, it was all A1. After the war, it became all mixed up. So then what happened was, now your phone keeps ringing. Do you need to look at it?
No, that's fine.
Are you sure it's not
with
our Uber Eats that's arriving soon?
It's all
okay,
good.
Cool. So I used to travel for expos, and I used to get really sick and get the runs. And a friend of mine calls it bum sting or bum whatever, I don't know. And I thought that I was getting nervous about the expos, and I thought the reason why I was getting the runs was because I was nervous about the expos. But I then worked out it was some milk. Whenever I was at home, so what happened was, back to Killian, we had discovered that Killian could have A2 milk.
Yeah.
So we bought A2 milk, proper milk, cow's milk. This is when I got into all this. And then I discovered that when I was at home, I was having A2 milk. And then when I would go out and about to expos, I was having A1 milk. And the A1 milk I was having was giving me the runs.
Yeah.
But what happened, it doesn't happen all the time. So this is where you start looking at it. So people think they're lactose intolerant. And so what would happen is you'd buy milk from the supermarket, and it might be 90% if you bought a different brand of milk. It might be 90% A2, 10% A1, and you'd be fine with it.
Yeah.
Then the next week you buy it, and it was 90% A1, 10% A2, and you'd be really sick from it. And then people weren't making a connection between milk and being sick because it changes all the time.
Yeah.
But some people just thought they were lactose intolerant, but they're not. They're A1 protein intolerant.
Yeah.
So there's nothing, it's not that A2 is good, it's that A1 is bad. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So A1 is not good for the human body. So the more A1 you have, it's not good for you, right? So that is where my A1, A2 came from. Mark my words, and it's happening already. I said 5 years ago that in 10 years, every infant formula in Australia would be A2. And it's happening already. And be really careful with the packaging, because a lot of milk say naturally contains A2, but it also naturally contains A1.
Yeah.
You want pure A2.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this guy told me once, one of the teachers from school told me that his friend had heard me talking about A2 and had gone out and bought A2 shares, and I made this person into a millionaire.
Oh, wow.
I didn't buy the A2 shares myself. How stupid am I? And I used to endorse Bellamy's organic infant formula.
Yes, I remember
And then
that.
when I stopped recommending it, even their CEO had to leave because their sales dropped so much.
Oh, wow.
So I clearly have an effect on brands without even realising that I do. You know? We know that because people in the support area constantly ask about brands.
Yeah.
Now, you were asking about, do you have anything to add about A1, A2 before we move on to stages?
No. I have found myself like that I get upset same as you sort of mentioned, if I have too much milk, I get really sick. So it's interesting. I think I'm going to try the A2 and see how that goes.
See if it's different.
Yeah.
So then someone asked about the stage for 1, 2 and 3 formulas. So it used to be that all formula was just formula.
Yeah.
And then they created this law that you couldn't advertise formulas advertise infant formula until over once. So it's like they produced this toddler milk so that they could advertise formula. So it's like they do all these ads for, my toddler is on stage 3 infant formula and it's really good, and then so they were able to advertise those formulas, but they couldn't advertise the younger ones.
Yeah.
And then it was like, well, how are you going to get someone to go onto stage 3? And I feel like they did this stepping stone. I feel like it's marketing companies who went, well, if we've got a stage 1 from 0 to 6 months, and then we've got a stage 2 from 6 to 12 months, and then we've got a stage 3 from 12 months on, it's created. Now, you know what's interesting? Let's go back to Bellamy's for a minute. So Bellamy's used to have 0 to 6 months, 6 to 12 months, and 12 months plus. I was endorsing Bellamy's and I was telling everybody only buy stage 1. And eventually they created the 0 to 12 month one because no one bought the stage 2, which again shows the effect. Now, stage 2 and 3 cause night waking. And
seen it a lot.
Yes, and people don't realise. And then when they do realise, it's like they run around trying to tell everybody. I noticed one lady had not realised it was in the book, had not realised we say don't move to it. I was talking to her and I said, have you recently moved your 7-month-old to stage 2? Is that my baby was sleeping perfectly till 6 months. Now my baby's 7 months and they're waking 4 times a night. I don't know what's wrong. And then you go, well, did you move your baby at 6 months to stage 2? Oh, yes, I did at like 6 months and a week or whatever. Well, that's what's wrong. And then you move them back and they suddenly start sleeping perfectly again. And then it's like these people, it's like a religion. They want to tell everybody. And they're trying to tell everybody. And it's really interesting to watch. And suddenly they go around the support group and every single person with a 6-month-old, they're saying, have you changed formula? Have you changed formula? Like it's like they become what's the word? Bear with a sore head. What's the expression?
I don't know. I haven't. But it's good.
No, what's the expression? It's when you constantly going on about something. I don't know.
I don't know. I'm thinking of a Pied Piper where you just like get your minions to follow you.
You're just, going, definitely,
Yeah.
Now, cow's milk. We start cow's milk at about 14 months, and I would recommend you start with A2 cow's milk. You can put cow's milk in cooking earlier, but cooked cow's milk. Cooked milk is different to not cooked milk. And some people ask, well, can I stay on infant formula for longer? Well, you can. It's expensive. Like when you work it out, it would be expensive to stay on infant formula longer. And you also might find if you stay on infant formula for longer, your child doesn't eat because they're getting so much nutrition in the formula they don't need to eat.
Yeah.
You've also got to remember, going off topic, but you've got to remember, when a child is under 2, they're growing, and they need to eat. When your child hits 2, they don't need to eat because they're not growing.
Yeah.
So people go on about, my fussy 2-year-old won't eat. A 2-year-old will eat a massive meal at the beginning of the day and a massive meal at the end of the day. Now that brings me on to, let's do a second person's question. I noticed a question when we were looking for this topic by a lady called Andie Towner, I think it was. And she was asking, what happens if my 2-year-old won't eat at daycare? Well, a lot of 2-year-olds will eat a massive breakfast and not eat for the rest of the day. They take all their calories in the early part of the day. So I would not worry about it. This mum asked, what happens if my 2-year-old doesn't eat at daycare and then wakes all night? Well, the night waking is nothing to do with the not eating during the day at 2 years old. At 2 years old, they are not night waking because they haven't eaten during the day. If they're night waking at 2, it's because there's something wrong. They don't have enough bedding, or they've never learnt the skill to sleep all night.
Or they've been changed into a big bed.
At daycare, onto a big mat, or they've been changed into a big bed, or, something has changed, or they're being aided to sleep, like you're going in and you're sitting with them. But it's not food related.
And that happens at daycare a lot too.
It's not food related, And then what happens is if you start daycare around about that age, you think, at night they go, Mum, I want you to sit, or they might not be talking, but you can tell they want you to sit with them. And then you think, I feel so guilty because they've been at, mum guilt again, they've been at daycare all day, so I'm going to sit with them till they fall asleep. But you don't realise, I'm going to read them an extra story because I've not seen them all day. But you don't realise that what you're doing is you're teaching them to be insecure. You're telling them, no, it's not okay. No, you don't feel safe and secure at daycare because, I'm going to sit with you longer. That you're kind of feeding the insecurity, because the way to make children feel safe and secure is to put boundaries firmly in place. Yeah. So like a new baby or like daycare, if you feel guilty and then you suddenly do something like give them
the extra toy
or extra toy or something, you are actually going to cause the night waking. So I would not be relating a 2-year-old's night waking to hunger.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be. I'd be relating it to other things. Have they got a urine tract infection? Have you started sitting with them when they fall asleep, etc. So there you go. That is the Craic, midweek Craic for this week.
Yes.
We will be chatting to you again on Sunday. We will look forward to talking to you on Sunday for another episode.
Bye, guys.
You have been listening to the Save Our Sleep podcast, brought to you by the International Baby Whisperer Proprietary Limited. You will find more information about the Save Our Sleep philosophy, products, support, and how to watch the mini clips that accompany this podcast at saveoursleep.com. You may find the Save Our Sleep social media accounts by searching Tizzie Hall on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel for all my how-to videos and to watch the podcasts. If you enjoyed the podcast, please rate it and share it with your friends. I would like to thank Kylie Szabo for co-hosting, Fundamental Studios Geelong for their amazing recording studio, Nick Dale at Primer Films for this production, and most of all, you, the listeners. Without you, there would be no reason for this podcast. Please enjoy, stay safe, and Kylie and I will look forward to chatting with you again soon.